Elon Musk and the rest of us humans have one thing in common. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. Perhaps the resemblances end there because the man works like a machine. There is no comparison. He manages Twitter, Tesla, SpaceX, OpenAI, the Boring Company, and also, according to Ashley Vance's biography of him, spends 4 days a week with his 6 children. And he still has time to de-stress or tweet his heart out whenever he feels like it, and of course make flamethrowers. Most of his time is spent on engineering and design, working for about 80 to 90 hours a week, which is double that of an average full-time worker.
And now I'm kind of in the 80 to 90, which is more manageable. But that if you divide that by 2, it's only like maybe 45 hours per company, which is not much when there's a lot of things going on.
You're like a slacker. I mean,
But even with the most busiest and hectic schedules of anybody on this planet, still manages to get everything done. So what is the secret to his legendary productivity? Let's get into it. Hey friends, Jawad here, and on this channel, we're trying to build a community of learners who are excited about developing themselves, their habits, their skill set, their finances, or just about learning new stuff in general. If you want to join us on this journey of growing together, then do consider subscribing. In today's video, we're going to be talking about billionaire, entrepreneur, and evil genius, Elon Musk. This video will be divided into 5 small parts because we all love a well-structured video. We start with the techniques themselves, and in the second part, why they're so effective. In the third part, some of the concerns or criticisms around it. In the fourth part, I go in-depth explaining how you can implement these techniques most efficiently or effectively into your lives. And in the fifth part, we gloss over some of the missteps to avoid. Of course, there'll be timestamps in the description so you can skip around if you want. Alright, without further ado, let's get into it. Drive is certainly a factor when comparing how much work gets done, but even the most motivated person has only a finite amount of time and has basic needs like food or sleep or going to the bathroom. The trick is to make the most out of your time, scheduling it in a way that allows you to squeeze the value out of every single minute. The term time flies exists for a reason. If you don't pay attention, it has a nasty habit of slipping by before you even realize it. So there are 3 techniques to solve this. Namely time boxing, task batching, and day theming, and Elon Musk isn't the only person using them. It's also used by Bill Gates and Carl Newport, though he calls it time blocking. It's mostly the same, but there is a slight difference that I will explain in a minute. But first, what is time boxing? Time boxing is a practice of setting a fixed amount of time for completing each task and integrating the resulting time blocks into your daily schedule. For example, 30 minutes for email, 60 minutes for workout. These are basically time boxes, and your schedule is made up of various time boxes. There's more to the technique, and it becomes really powerful once you pair it with the other 2 techniques. But for now, I hope you've understood what time boxing is. This technique was invented by James Martin, author of the book Rapid Application Development. And the difference between time boxing and time blocking is that in time boxing, time is allocated to completing the task, while in time blocking, time is allocated to just doing it irrespective of whether you finish it or not. It's basically the same, but I hope you understood the difference and you can use them as per your requirement. I will go in depth explaining the step-by-step breakdown of using this technique, but for now, let's understand what day theming and task batching really are. It's pretty simple. Task batching, like the name suggests, is when you group similar tasks together, usually smaller tasks, and schedule specific time blocks to complete them all at once. By doing this, you limit the amount of context switching you have to do throughout the day, saving precious time and mental energy. For example, scheduling 2 20-minute blocks to process emails throughout the day is more effective than, say, checking your inbox every 15 minutes. Another example would be if you're running errands, you might as well go grocery shopping. And as such, grouping tasks of similar nature or similar tasks to complete them all at once is called task batching. Time boxing pairs well with task batching because it saves you from scheduling every individual task on your calendar. Just block off chunks of time each day or each week when you want to complete a certain batch of activities. The third technique, day theming, is a game changer. It's a more extreme version of task batching for people who have a lot of areas of responsibilities. For example, an entrepreneur has so many responsibilities, right? Like sales, marketing, HR, product development, customer relations. And instead of scheduling time blocks for each responsibility every single day, day theming dedicates a full day each week for each responsibility. Like Elon Musk has so many companies and he can't possibly manage all the companies, divide his attention between all the companies every single day. So what he does is Tesla on Monday, SpaceX on Tuesday, Twitter on Wednesday, something like that. And This creates a reliable pattern of work and further reduces the cognitive load of context switching. You can try these techniques if you're struggling with procrastination and always lose track of your time, or if your day is chopped up by meetings, or if you're just juggling with too many different things to take care of at once. Moving on to the second part of why these techniques are so effective. Number 1, it counteracts perfectionism. Fuzzy timelines are a perfectionist's worst enemy. There's always something to be tweaked and improved, and it can be difficult to know when an open-ended project is going to be finished, especially if you're aiming for perfection. At some point, you just need to be able to say good enough and move on. Timeboxing helps you by imposing time limits on your project. If you often prolong tasks by getting everything just right, set a strict time box for completing the task and stick to it. Number 2, it promotes deep work. When you schedule a chunk of time to work on a single project, problem, or task, you bring all of your mental resources to work on that one thing rather than spreading your attention thin across several tasks. And the more you single task, the more you build the mental muscles required for deep work, and the easier it is to stay focused. It helps you knock off shallow work, that's busy work that's urgent but not important for your long-term goals, let's say paperwork or emails for example. And by time boxing shallow work, you're setting clear limits to how much time you're dedicating to it, and batching all those together, you'll power through them more efficiently and save the rest of your workday for higher impact work. And knowing that you're only going to be dedicating so much time for something keeps you away from distractions. Number 3, it helps you follow through on your goals. When you schedule a task, you're more likely to follow through on that because you've committed it down on paper, and you can also divide the larger task into subtasks and track the progress to fulfill a deadline. Number 4, timeboxing creates a useful limitation that might actually make you more productive. Firstly, it takes a lot of the choice out of what you're going to work on, preventing procrastination of effortful tasks. And secondly, since you have a fixed amount of time, since you have a limited amount of time, you're going to focus more intently to finish it. And people like Musk and Bill Gates probably need to use this technique because they've got so many commitments, so many balls in the air, that without pre-planning their schedule in advance and keeping things really organized, things are just bound to slip through the cracks. Now, let's address some of the concerns or criticisms around these techniques. Firstly, if controlling your time will stifle creativity. I understand this concern, but it's fundamentally misguided. You see, if you control your schedule, you can consistently dedicate time to the deep efforts that matter for creative pursuits. And like Cal Newport writes in his blog, the stress relief that comes from this sense of organization allows you to go deeper into your creative blocks and produce more value. Some people might ask, scheduling your entire day basically makes you a robot, dude, why do you do that? And I gotta say, this technique will give you less unstructured free time, but as you might know from your current life, unstructured free time might actually be a bad thing because, as Parkinson's law states, work tends to expand to the time allotted to it. For example, if you think cleaning your room is gonna take a whole day, it's gonna take a whole day, and if you think it's gonna take 30 minutes, then 30 minutes. Okay, so now let's dive deep into the step-by-step breakdown of how you can actually use these techniques. The blog post by Cal Newport titled "The Importance of Planning Out Every Minute of Your Workday" is a very good example. Firstly, you have to write down all your tasks in a piece of paper and then estimate the amount of time each one takes, whatever you're comfortable with or are confident in. If you're on a deadline, you can use time boxing, but just give some extra free time so you make sure you're going to finish it, or just use time blocking where you just do the work and not worry about finishing it. Don't give start and end times, just an estimate of how long you're going to be doing it or how long it's going to take for you to complete it. Then on a fresh page, make 2 columns. Record the time flow first, and after you've written down all your tasks, arrange them in any order you want. You don't have to use cutouts, I'm only doing this for your better understanding. But for most of us, we have commitments like classes or going to the doctor or lunch with friends. So place those tasks that can't be moved around first. You can even color it in black if you want, and then see the gaps and the tasks that you have listed and move each task to the gap that fits best to it. First, place your time boxing tasks that need to be completed. You can color them in red if you want, and then you can place your time blocks. Try to keep some empty spaces to counter interruptions or just to make sure you have some leeway if you need to revise your plan later. Now, if you pay close attention, you will see what I've done here. I go swimming only on Saturdays, and that too in the morning, so that's day theming. And I've grouped my meetings and outdoor tasks together, and that is task batching. If you need to revise your plan in case of interruptions, then just strike off one time block and make alterations next to it like this. I know this sounds like a lot of work, but you will master it in just a couple days, and it won't take very long until it becomes second nature, and just a few minutes of effort every day can double or even triple your productivity. Also, you don't have to do it on paper. There's an app that you can use for this called 3030. The design of this app isn't the most appealing, but it works, and the Android alternative would be Do Now. Now, if you're the type of person who is comfortable using a calendar, then by all means do so. If you even want to use start and end time if you want, you can do that too. See, creating a system that works for you is very important if productivity is important to you at all. And this process might include a lot of trial and error, but once things are sorted out, it can be massively helpful. There's an app called Todoist which is basically task management software, which pairs very well with your calendar and has a lot of tools that can boost your productivity. But explaining that will take a whole another video, which I will be making at some point, so be sure to subscribe. Or you can just use Notion to keep things really organized. Comment down if you want me to make that video too, or you can just watch this course called Building a Second Brain by Tiago Forte, or just comment if you want me to make them for free. Either way, if you're going to use this technique successfully, then the number one thing you need to be able to do is to estimate the amount of time it's going to take you to complete a task. And that brings us to the last part of this video: common missteps to avoid. The bad news is that you guys, being humans, are susceptible to what is called the planning fallacy, which describes how humans tend to make over-optimistic predictions of how long a task is going to take. There's actually research done on this in the University of Waterloo, where students were asked to make two different types of predictions. One, the best case scenario, and the other, the average everyday case scenario. And when researchers compared both the predictions, they found them to be virtually identical, which shows that humans tend to picture a best case scenario where literally nothing goes wrong when they're trying to think of an average everyday case. For example, even if you know at the back of your head that while going to the office there's going to be traffic, there's going to be someone driving really slow in front of you, or there's going to be a grandma in front of you, when predicting how long it's going to take, you picture a scenario where there's barely any traffic, barely any mishaps, and it's just going to be perfect. And this cognitive bug is not very congruent with successful time boxing. So pad your time blocks with some extra space to cope up with any lags that might occur until you get a better estimation of how long a task is going to take. And there's a really good app that you can use for this called Toggle, which helps you keep track of all your tasks and how long it took. This is going over the top really because you can just use your watch, but it helps you if you want to review your schedule maybe every weekend. I'm gonna make a video on how to manage your time and exercises for it, which is from a course I really spent a lot of money on, so subscribe. Now it brings me to my most crucial and important piece of advice for using this technique effectively, and that is resist the temptation to overschedule your day. Yes, Elon might be putting in 80 to 90 hour work weeks and juggling a zillion things at once, but number one, that dude is a monster, and number two, when you have something on your schedule that requires intense concentration and creativity, sometimes that's all that you can do for the day. You burn out. People overestimate the amount of work that they can do in a single day and underestimate what they can do in a month or even a week. So don't try to squeeze in hectic work in a sliver of time that's already taken up by errands and admin work. As the author of the book, The 4 Disciplines of Execution, says, the more things you try to do, the less you actually accomplish. So try to take advantage of the benefits that come from limiting your time, but give the creative work the space that it deserves. This is by far the hardest video that I've made till now, so if you found this video helpful, drop a like to show your support and comment down any other techniques that you found useful in your life. If you're a student in school, college or university, you can click here to learn how to study more effectively, or you can click here to learn how to type more effectively, which is very important in this digital era, or click any of these for something more fun. Beep, 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 beep. Beep, 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 beep. Free Palestine. Namaste.